What's going on, y'all? It's JD Pickell today on the Hard Count. Baylor have their own little quarterback situation. We're going to talk about it next. Welcome into CFB with JD, the People's Channel for everything you know and love about college football. It happens here, happens nearly every single day. Armstrong Sims, Jack McKenzie do the real heavy lifting, and y'all drive the show. One way you can help drive the show, my Twitter page, at JD Pickell. We do open-ended questions. We do polls. We want to hear from you. We want you to have your hands on the wheel as much as possible. That's a great way to put your hand on the wheels, to follow me and interact with us there. The DMs are open. If you want to have a conversation about stuff, the DMs are very much open. Quick side note, some housekeeping before we keep the party rolling, as we always do. You may have noticed last week there weren't as many videos, okay? And that's on me. That's nobody else's fault. That's on me. I was away, okay? We recorded those videos the week before because your boy got a ring, okay? This is something Nick Saban didn't get this year, and I did, okay? So that is me one up on Nick Saban in 2022. Let the record show. So we're going to be doing more videos. Last week was an anomaly. I felt like I had to say that. I don't know if that's relevant or not, but want to throw it in there. Baylor, they got themselves a ring as well this past year, winning the Big 12 championship. And it's crazy to say this, that you have a team that wins a conference, wins a New Year's Six Bowl, and then you say, well, who's going to play quarterback for them next year? And it's an interesting predicament in Waco as of right now, because you got two guys that can ball. You got Gerry Bohanon, you got Blake Shapen. Also, you have another kid, Kyron Drones, who's going to be a redshirt freshman next year, and he's a guy that probably needs to see the field sooner rather than later as well. And so we're just going to kind of break this down because there's two trains of thought. One is Gerry Bohanon your starter? And you know, you don't even need to have a competition. You just let him be the guy, and you don't even touch that machine. Or, for competition's sake, do you have a derby and let those three guys, especially Shapen and Bohanon, you let them battle it out? So what do they bring to the table? First and foremost, Gerry Bohanon, all he did last year was run the offense effectively. You look at his numbers, he wasn't jumping off the stat sheet. He wasn't in Heisman conversations, but he ran the offense to a T. And if you look at what Baylor did a year before when they went 2-7, as a Baylor fan, you were praising the Lord, thanking your lucky stars that you had a quarterback who was able to get you down the field. And so that's, I think, the biggest thing with him is he allows this offense to pick up first downs and eventually get touchdowns. He's a good passer. He's not a bad passer. People try to make that conversation. He's a good passer. He's a capable passer. He is a really imposing athlete, meaning you can call quarterback power for him on 2nd and 3 and feel good about it. You can call stuff in the fringe to low red zone and feel good about him getting the yards that you need to get. About 6'3", I want to say somewhere around 220-ish. He's a specimen, all right? He's a specimen, and I think his durability and the fact that he is such a big athlete just allows you to call the offense differently for him. Then you have Blake Shapen, who stepped in the Big 12 championship game, had the game of his life, balled the heck out, and is really the reason why we're having this conversation is because of how he played in that game, okay? I mean, he's extremely accurate. He is a phenomenal passer. He's a different flavor than Gerry Bohanon. What do I mean by that? You're going to call the offense differently for Blake Shapen than you will for Gerry Bohanon. You don't call quarterback power for Blake Shapen. You call inside zone. Maybe you call a read option every now and then because he's a good athlete, but I don't want him running quarterback power and trying to run over linebackers like I do with Gerry Bohanon. Now, on the flip side, I think you potentially have more vertical pass games that you can call for a guy like Blake Shapen, meaning I don't think you have to set it up quite as much for a guy like Blake Shapen. You don't have to run, then pass. You can call 3-step drop, 1st and 2nd down, and feel okay about what you got with Blake Shapen. Like I said, extremely accurate. Everybody and their mother remembers the one that he dropped in the bucket to Tyquan Thornton in the Big 12 title game. There's a lot to like about him. On the flip side, there's not quite as much sample size. We only have really, 2 games to go off of between Texas Tech, 2.5, Texas Tech, Kansas State, and then the Big 12 title game. So a lot still, as I think, in question about him, and I don't say that in a negative way. You just haven't seen him play as much football as you have Gerry Bohanon. Gerry Bohanon was playing under Matt Rule. Gerry Bohanon was your starter the duration of your Big 12 title season. So I don't understand how you can look a guy like Gerry Bohanon in the eyes and say, hey, thanks for the Big 12 title. Thanks for the Sugar Bowl. We're going to go another direction. There's people that make a lot more money than me making these decisions, but I think it's going to be a tough conversation if you were to do that. So going into spring ball, what makes your decision? Like what's your variables that you're looking at closely? These are mine. How do you want to call the offense? Because like I mentioned, a lot of different things that both quarterbacks bring to the table. You can call the base of the offense the same if you want. You're still going to have the wide zone. You're still going to have the play action. You're still going to want to be smash mouth. But the secondary piece of that will look different depending on which quarterback is taking snaps. Okay, so if it's Gerry Bohanon, it could be more quarterback power. It could be more of an emphasis on play action. With Blake Shapen, it could be more quick game. It could be more vertical game. It's going to be a little bit less dependent on play action. So which do you want to err more on the side of? Because both can get it done for you. We've seen that, and I feel fairly confident saying you probably still win the Big 12 title game if you have Gerry Bohanon playing quarterback for you. I don't think that's really something that a lot of knowledgeable Baylor fans will argue with you too much about. So the other piece is who's the leader. And this is tricky because Gerry Bohanon was your quarterback for double-digit games last year. It'd be hard to say that he's not the alpha in that locker room. Now, again, that is purely speculation. I'm not in that locker room. I don't have any inside information, but that's the way it feels as a guy who's waited his turn, who's stuck with Baylor, who's, like I said, won quite a bit for them as their quarterback. It'd be hard to say he's not your leader. But on the flip side, if Blake Shapen, if he becomes the quarterback, if he wins that job, it'd be difficult to say he doesn't take over that position or take over that leadership position as well. So I think those are things that will be played out. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves and even having this conversation to begin with. That'll get played out in the spring, but I think whoever your quarterback is, he has to be the leader of your football team. That sounds like common knowledge. That sounds like something that you don't even really need to say, but I've been a part of teams where the quarterback's not the leader, tons of physical ability, really great player. He's not your leader in your locker room. Your team isn't nearly as good as it can be. Your team leaves a lot of potential on the table if you don't have an alpha at quarterback. And lastly, this is what it comes down to me, and this is why Gerry Bohanon, I believe, won the job a year ago over Jacob Zeno. Jacob Zeno, Gerry Bohanon, let's say they go out there, they do target practice in shorts and a t-shirt. Jacob Zeno probably wins that competition. However, that's not how you play football, folks. You got to drive a team down the field, typically somewhere around 80 to 75 yards, and you have to will them. You have to find a way to pick up first downs to equal touchdowns. That's what Gerry Bohanon specialized in a season ago. I think Blake Shapen can do the exact same thing, but in spring ball, when you go to those open practices, when you watch the spring game on television, maybe you go to McLean Stadium, that's what needs to be the key thing that you're looking at. Not completion percentage. Don't nitpick decisions. Don't nitpick turnovers, especially if it's close. We don't need to nitpick turnovers, especially in the spring. Nitpick who moves the offense. That's what it's all about. That's what it's going to come down to. And ultimately, I think it will get decided in the spring. I think you got to edge towards Gerry Bohanon, but bottom line, it's going to be incredibly difficult to keep Shapen, Bohanon, and Drones all on your roster past this season. I would love it. I think it's not impossible. I think Dave Aranda is the guy to do it if it can be done. But all three of these guys are incredibly capable. Blake Shapen has proven how capable he is, and there needs to be a quarterback one. Can't have a two-quarterback system. That's it for us here on The Hard Count. We appreciate you tuning in. We're so grateful. Over 3,000 subscribers. Blown away all of us here are at the support and the feedback we've gotten from y'all. And so thank you for tuning in. We will keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time.